Now, let's bring in Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, you were somebody that always liked to use a lot of charts and graphs. I remember because I was the MC the night you became Speaker, and I followed your 5 years as Speaker. The last one to balance the budget, you did it 4 years in a row. The Democrats have been screaming affordability. Things, according to all these charts, seem to be turning around rather dramatically. Where will we be in 6 months from now at the end of the second quarter?
Well, look, I think that we're going to see a choice in 2026 between a Trump boom and the Democrats' gloom. Literally that wide. I think the president's right. And again, I'm a disciple of Art Laffer and others. I believe in supply-side economics. You look at the trillions of dollars the president's brought into the country in investment. You look at the trillions he has sold of American products. You look at the impact of the tariffs. You look at the impact of the One Big Beautiful Bill and all the different tax changes. I would be shocked if we did not have a roaring economy by July of next year. And I think that's going to wash away an amazing amount of the news media's effort to, frankly, talk badly about America. I mean, the elite media, the Democratic propaganda media, has done everything it could to hide reality. Just take the price of gasoline. When you start having states that are below $2 a gallon, and you think about what people used to say the price would inevitably be, when you see the big auto companies all going back to producing internal combustion engines, because guess what? That's what their consumers want to buy. I see so many good things, but I'll tell you, we've known each other a long time. To watch President Trump give a 19-minute disciplined speech that covered that many facts was worthy of Ronald Reagan. That was a good speech. It was an important speech. Someday people will say it was one of the most important speeches of his career because it set the table for the entire debate over the next year and laid out what Biden did to make the country a disaster, what Trump has already done, and where we are going in general, and why that's the right direction. I think it's a very, very important speech.
I thought it was very iconoclastic in terms of it shattered the Democratic talking point, affordability. Number one, he laid out that the affordability crisis was caused by them. I don't think anybody can watch that speech and not walk away with that conclusion. Senator Barrasso used the term political shock and awe. And then you just go back a year ago. He's just shy of 11 full months in office. And wow, what a comparison of what we had and the force of nature that the country saw tonight. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that there's no question this is one of the most consequential presidents in American history. And he has begun, if he can win next year, and I think he will, I think we'll keep the House and the Senate and probably gain seats in both. If that happens, I think he really begins to rival the top 3 or 4 presidents in American history because he is fundamentally changing the Rooseveltian majority, which has been there for 90 years. He's begun to dismantle large parts of the bureaucracy. He's begun to move us back towards being a work-oriented, meritocracy-oriented country that encourages entrepreneurs, encourages new jobs, encourages new technologies. We are going to pull away from the rest of the planet because of the sheer dynamic of the American economy when it has a cheerleader president who is himself an entrepreneur. It makes all the difference in the world.
Mr. Speaker, let's look forward. 2026, midterm election year. 3 times in the last 100 years did the party in power maintain control. 4 times in 150 years. We had a private conversation, and I spoke to you about that. You were the architect of bringing Republicans back to power, starting with Renewing American Civilization, and I still have old VHS tapes of that series that you put out. But you were the architect to bring Republicans back to power after 40 years in the wilderness. Tell me how this president can defy historical trends in this way. Is it all going to be based on the economy and peace around the globe? Because peace and prosperity tend to drive elections.
Well, no, look, I think it's a very simple question. People are going to say to themselves, is it working, whatever it is? If they say it's working, they're going to vote for Trump and the Republicans. If they say it's not working, they're going to vote for the Democrats. And what's happening is when you talk about crime, clearly it's better with Trump. When you talk about the border, it's unbelievably better with President Trump. When you talk about the war on drugs, it's dramatically better with Trump. When you start talking about sheer volume of American production, it's better with Trump. So Republicans have to really get in their heads. You have to win the argument. You have to recognize that the news media is your opponent, that they're going to try every day to make you feel bad, that they're going to try to raise issues designed to hurt you, and you just have to run over them. And you have to come back to the basics. You know, I'd love to go around the country and debate some left-winger. Is it good to have gasoline below $2, or is it bad? Now, if you're a true left-winger, it's terrible, because it means you're not going to get electric cars, you're not going to stop oil and gas, you're going to have regular traditional cars. So from a left-wing standpoint, gasoline under $2 is a nightmare. Is it good to have people getting off of welfare and going to work? Well, if you're a Trump MAGA Republican, you think that's terrific. If you're a left-winger, you're going, wait a second. I need them to be dependent. I need them to be part of the welfare system. Gosh, I mean, what if everybody actually had a job and we had no welfare program left? So I think we have to win the arguments. And every time you've seen this happen, the most famous being 1934 with Franklin Roosevelt, the party dominated the argument. And I believe President Trump showed tonight that he's prepared to focus, to be disciplined, to communicate. And if I were a Democrat, tonight would leave me very unnerved.
I'll tell you, I would not want to be in the position or the shoes of Democrats. They have to hope that the president's policies fail, that the economy doesn't recover, that somehow, you know, his border policies and his peace policies are not successful. I don't think that's a good position to be in. Mr. Speaker, we appreciate your time.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.